Today I'll be reading a poem to you. It is Song of Myself by Walt Whitman. It's a very famous poem, but you might not know that it is very, very long. So I'm reading it for you, so you do not have to read it. And this is by request by a very special watcher. I love you. Leaves of Grass, Song of Myself by Walt Whitman. I celebrate myself, and what I assume you shall assume, for every atom belonging to me as good belongs to you. I loaf and invite my soul, I lean and loaf at my ease, observing a spear of summer grass. Houses and rooms are full of perfumes, the shelves are crowded with perfumes. I breathe the fragrance myself, and know it and like it. The distillation would intoxicate me also, but I shall not let it. The atmosphere is not perfume. It has no taste of distillation. It is odorless. It is for my mouth forever. I am in love with it. I will go to the bank by the wood and become undisguised and naked. I am mad for it to be in contact with me. The smoke of my own breath echoes, ripples, and buzzed whispers. Love root, silk thread, crotch and vine, my respiration and inspiration, the beating of my heart, the passing of blood and air through my lungs, the sniff of green leaves and dry leaves, and the shore and dark-colored sea rocks, and of hay of the barn, the sound of the bleached words of my voice, works loosed to the eddies of the wind, a few light kisses, a few embraces, a reaching around of arms, the play of the shine and the shade on the tree as the supple boughs wag, the delight alone in or in the rush of the streets or along the fields and hillsides, the feeling of health, the full noon trill, the song of me rising from bed and meeting the sun. Have you reckoned 1,000 acres much? Have you reckoned the earth? Have you practiced so long to learn to read? Have you felt so proud to get the meaning of poems? Stop this day and night with me, and you shall possess the origin of all poems. You shall possess the good of the earth and the sun. There are millions of suns left. You shall no longer take things a second or third hand, nor look through the eyes of the dead, nor feed the specters in books. You shall not look through the eyes either, nor take things from me. You shall listen to all sides and filter them for yourself. I have heard what the talkers were talking, the talk of the beginning and the end, but I do not talk of the beginning or the end. There was never any more inception than there is now, nor any more youth or age than there is now, and will never be any more perfection than there is now, nor any more heaven or hell than there is now. Urge and urge and urge, always proceedent, urge of the world, out of the dimness opposite equals advice, out of dimness opposite equals advance, always substance and increase, always of knit and identity, always distinction, always a breed of life. To elaborate is no avail. Learning and unlearning feel that it is so. Sure as the most certain shore, plumb in the uprights, well entreated, braced in the beams, stout as a horse, affectionate, haughty, electrical, I and this mystery here we stand. Clearly and sweet is my soul, and clear and sweet all that is my soul. Lack one lacks both, and unseen is proved by the seen, till that becomes unseen and receives proof in its turn, showing the beast and dividing it from the worst age vexes age, knowing the perfect fitness and equanimity of things. While they discuss, I am silent, and I go bathe and adorn myself. Welcome is every organ and attribute of me, and of any man hearty and clean. Not an inch, nor particle of an inch, is vile, and none shall be less familiar than the rest. I am satisfied. I see dance, laugh, sing, as God comes a loving bedfellow, and sleeps at my side all night and close to the peep of the day, and leaves for me baskets covered with white towels, bulging the house with their plenty. Shall I postpone my acceptation and realization and scream at my eyes that they turn from gazing after and down the road and forthwith cipher and show me to assent exactly the contents of one and exactly the contents of two, and which is ahead? Trippers and askers surround me, people I meet, the effect upon me of my early life, of the ward and city I live in, of the nation, the latest news, discoveries, inventions, societies, authors old and new, my dinner, dress, associates, looks, business, compliments, dues, the real or fancied indifference of some man or woman I love, the sickness of one of my folks, or of myself, or ill-doing, or loss, or lack of money, or depressions, or exaltations. They come to me days and nights and go from me again. But they are not the me myself. Apart from the pulling and hauling stands what I am, stands amused, complacent, compassioning, idle, looks down, is erect, bends an arm, impalable, certain rest, looks with its side-curved head, curious what will come next. Both in and out of the game, and watching and wondering at it. Backward I see my own days where I sweat through fog. With linguists and contenders I have no mocking arguments. I witness and wait. I believe in you, my soul. The other I am must not abase itself to you, and you must not be abased to the other. Loaf with me on the grass. Loose the stop from your throat. No words, not music or rhyme I want, not custom or lecture or even the best. Only the low I like and hum of your valved voice. I mind how we lay in June, such transparent summer morning. You settled your head athwart my hips and gently turned over upon me, and parted the shirt from my bosom bone, and plunged your tongue to my bare-strepped heart, and I reached till you felt my beard, reached till you held my feet, softly arose and spread around the peace and joy and knowledge that pass all the art and argument of the earth, and I know that the hand of God is elder hand of my own, and I know that the Spirit of God is the eldest brother of my own, and that all the men ever born are also my brothers, and that the women my sisters and lovers, and that kelson of the creation is love, and limitless are the leaves, stiff or drooping in the fields, and brown ants in the little wells beneath them, and mossy scabs of the worm fence, and heaped stone, and elder, and mullein, and pokeweed. A child said, "What is grass?" fetching to me with the full hands. How could I answer that child? I do not know what it is any more than he. I guess it must be the flag of my disposition, out of hopeful green stuff woven. Or I guess it is the handkerchief of the Lord, or a scented gift, remembrance designed, dropped, bearing the owner's name in some way in the corners. that we may see and remark and say, whose? Or, I guess the grass itself is a child, the produced babe of the vegetation. Or I guessed it was a uniform hieroglyphic, and it means sprouting alike a broad zones and narrow zones, growing among black folks and among white. Tuckahoe, Congress, cuff, I give them the same, I receive them the same. And now it seems to me that beautiful uncut hair of grass, tenderly will I use your curling grass. It may be your transpire from the breasts of young men. It may be if I had known them, I would love them. It may be you are from old people and from women, from offspring taken soon out of their mother's laps, and there you are, the mother's laps. The grass is very dark, to be from white heads of old mothers. Darker than the colorless beard of old men, dark to come from under the faint red roofs of mouths. Oh, perceive after all so many uttered tongues, and perceive they do not come from the roofs of mouths for nothing. I wish I could translate the hints about the dead young men and women, and the hints about the old men and mothers and the offspring taken soon out of their laps. What do you think has become of the young and old men? And what do you think has become of the women and children? They are alive and well somewhere, and the smallest sprout shows there is really no death, and if ever there was, it led forward life and does not wait. At the end to arrest it, and ceased the moment of life appeared, all goes onward and outward, and nothing collapses, and die is different from what anyone supposed, and luckier. Has anyone supposed to be lucky to be born? I hastened inform him or her, it is just as lucky to die, and I know it. I pass death with dying, and birth with new washed babe, and am not contained between my hat and boots. I pursue manifold objects, no two alike, and every one good. The earth good, and the stars good, and their adjuncts all good. I am not an earth, nor an adjunct of an earth. I am the mate and compassion of the people, all just as immortal and fathomless as myself. They do not know how immortal, but I know. Every kind for itself and its own. For me, mine, male and female. For me, all that have been boys and that love women. For me, the man that is proud and feels how to sing, how it stings to be slighted. For me, the sweetheart and the old maid. For me, mothers and the mothers of mothers. For me, lips that have smiled, eyes that have shed tears. For me, children and begetters of children. Who need be afraid the merge? Unrape. You are not guilty to me, nor stale, nor discarded. I see through the broadcloth and ginham, whether or no, and I am around, tenacious, acquaintive, tireless, and can never be shaken away. The little one sleeps its cradle. If I lift gauze and look a long time, and silently brush away flies with my hand, the youngster and the red-faced girl turn aside bushy hill. I, peering, view them from the top. The suicide sprawls on the bloody floor of the bedroom. It is so. I witness the corpse. There is the pistol had fallen. The blab of the pave, the tireless of carts, the slough of boot soles, and talks of promenaders. The heavy omnibus, the driver with interrogating thumb, the clank of the sod horses in the granite floor, the carnival sleighs, the clinking and the shouting jokes, and pelts of snowballs, the hurrahs of popular favors, and the fury of roused mobs, the flap of certain litter, the sick man inside borne to the hospital, the meeting of enemies, the sudden oath, the blows and the fall, the excited crowd, the policeman with his stars, quickly working his passage to the center of the crowd. I am past stones that receive and return so many echoes. The souls moving along. Are they invisible while the least atom in the stones is visible? What grains of overfed or half-starved who fall in the flag sunstruck or in fits? What exclamations of women take suddenly who hurry home and give birth to babes? What living and buried speech is always vibrating here? What hollows restrained by decorum, arrest of criminals, slights, adulterers, offers made, acceptances, rejections with convicts' lips? I made them, or the residents of them. I come again and again. The big doors of the country barns stand open and ready. The drag grass of the harvest time loads the slow-drawn wagon. The clear light plays in the brown, gray, and the green interrogated. The armfuls are packed with the swagging mow. I am here. I help. I came to stench atop the load. I felt its soft jolts. One leg reclined on the other. I jump from crossbeams and seize cover and Timothy, and roll head over heels, tangle of a hair full of wisps. Alone, far in the wilds of mountains I hunt, wandering amazed at my own lightness and glee, in the late afternoon choosing a safe spot to pass the night, kindling a fire and broiling fresh-killed game, soundly falling asleep on the gathered leaves, my dog and my gun by my side. The Yankee clipper is under her 3 sky sails. She cuts the sparkle and scud. My eyes settle the land. I bend at her prow. I shout jealously from her deck. The boatmen, clam diggers, arouse early and stopped for me. I tucked the trouser end of my boots and went and had a good time. You should have been with us that day round the chowder kettle. I saw the marriage of the trapper and the open air and the far west. The bride was a red girl. Her father and her friends sat near, cross-legged and dumbly smoking. They had moccasins to their feet and large, thick blankets hanging from their shoulders. On a blank-lugged trapper, he was dressed mostly in skins. His luxuriant beard and curls protected his neck. One hand rested on his rifle, the other hand held firmly the wrist of the red girl. She had long eyelashes, her head was bare, her coarse straight locks descended upon her voluptuous limbs and reached over her feet. The runway slave came to my house and stopped outside. I heard his motions crackling the twigs of the woodpile. Through the swug half door of the kitchen I saw him, limpsy and weak, and went where he sat on a log, and led him in and assured him, and brought water, filled the tub for his sweaty body and bruised feet. I gave him room that entered from my own, and remember perfectly well his revolving eyes and his awkwardness, and remember putting plasters on the gals of his neck and ankles. He stayed with me a week before he was He stayed with me a week before he was recuperated and passed north, and had him sit next to me at table. My firelock leaned on the corner. 28 young men bathed by the shore. 28 young men, and all so friendly. 28 years of womanly life, and all so lonesome. She owns the firehouse by the rise of the bank. She hides handsome and richly dressed oft in the blinds of the window. Which of the young men does she like the best? At the homeliest of them is beautiful to her? Where are you off to, lady? For I see you splash in the water. There is yet stock still in your room. Dancing and laughing along the beach came 29th bather. The rest did not see her, but she saw them and loved them. The beards of the young men glistened with wet. It ran from their long hair. Little streams passed all over their bodies. An unseen hand also passed over their bodies. It descended, trembling from their temples and ribs. The young men float on their backs. Their white bellies swell from the sun. They do not ask who seizes fast to them. They do not know who puffs and declines with pendant and bending arch. They do not think whom they souse spray. The butcher boys put off his killing cloths and sharpens his knife at the stall of the market. I loiter, enjoying his repartee and his shuffle and breakdown. Blacksmiths with grimmed and hairy chests environ the anvil. Each has his main sledge. They are all out. There is great heat in the fire. From the cider-strewed threshold I follow their movements. I lithe the sheer of their wrists, plays even with their massive arms. Overhand the hammers roll, overhand so slow, overhand so sure. They do not hasten, each man hits in his place. The N-word holds firmly the reins of his 4 horses. The block swags underneath in its tied-over chain. The N-word that drives the huge dray of the stoneyard, steady and tall, he stands poised on one leg in the strong piece. His blue shirt exposes his ample neck and breast and loosens over his hip band. His glance is calm and commanding. He tosses the slouch of his hat away from his forehead. The sun falls on his crispy hair and mustache, falls on the black of his polished and perfect limbs. Behold the picturesque giant, and love him. And I do not stop there. I go with the team also. In me the caresser of the life, wherever moving the backyard as well as forward slewing, to niches aside with junior bending. Oxen that rattle the yoke or halt the shade, what is that you express within your eyes? It seems to me more than all the print I have read in my life. My tread scars the wood drake and wood duck on my distant and day-long ramble. They rise together, they slowly circle around. I believe in those winged purposes, and acknowledge the red, yellow, white playing within me. Consider the green and violet and the tuft-crowned intentional, and do not call the tortoise unworthy because he is not something else, and the mocking-bird in the swamp never studied the gamut, yet trills pretty well to me, and the look of the bay mare shames silliness out of me. The wild gander leads his flock through the cool night. Ah, honk! he says, and sounds it down to me like an imitation. The pert may suppose meaninglessness, but I listen closer. I find its purpose and place up there toward the November sky. The sharp-hoofed moose of the north, the cat in the house still, the chickadee and the prairie dog, the litter of the grunting sow that they tug at her teats, the brood of the turkey hen, and she with her half-spread wings. I see them, and myself the same old law. The press of my foot on the earth springs 100 affections. They scorn the best I can do to relate to them. I am enamored with the growing outdoors, of men that live among cattle or taste the ocean or woods, of the builders and steerers of the ships and the welders of the axes and mauls, of the drivers of horses. I can eat and sleep with them week in and week out. What commonest and cheapest and nearest and easiest is me? Me going on for my chances, spending for vast returns, adorning myself to bestow myself in the first that will take me, not asking the sky to come down to my goodwill, scattering it freely forever. The pure contralto songs of the organ loft. The carpenter dresses his plank, the tongue of his foreplane whistles its wild ascending lisp. The married and unmarried children ride home to their Thanksgiving dinner. The pilot seizes the kingpin and heaves down with a strong arm. The mate stands braced in the whaleboat. Lance and harpoon are ready. The duck shooter walks by silent and cautious stretches. The deacons are ordained with crossed hands at the altar of the spinning girl. Retreats and advances to the hum of the big wheel. The farmer stops by the bars of a Sunday and looks at the oats and rye. The lunatic is carried at last to the asylum and a confirmed case. He will never sleep any more as he did in the cot in his mother's bedroom. The juror, printed with gray head and jaunt jaws, works his case. He turns his quid of tobacco. His eyes get blurred with the manuscript. The malformed limbs are tied to the anatomist's table. What is removed drops horribly in pale. The quadroon girl is sold at the stand. The drunkard nods by the barroom stove. The machinist rolls in his sleeves, and the policeman travels his beat, and the gatekeeper marks his pass. The young fellow drives the express wagon. I love him, though I do not know him. The half-breed straps on his light boots to complete in the race. The western turkey shooting draws old and young. Some lean on their rifles, some sit on logs. But from the crowd steps the marksman and takes his position and levels his piece. The group of the newly come immigrants come. The wharf of the levee, the woolly pates hoe in the sugar field. The overseer views the bulge, calls the ballroom. Gentlemen run for their partners, and dancers bow to each other. The youth lies awake in the cedar-roofed garret and harks to the music rain. The wolverine sets traps on the creek that helps fill the Huron. The reformer ascends the platform. He spouts with his mouth and nose. The reformer ascends the platform. He spouts his mouth and nose. The company returns from its excursion, and the darky brings up the rear and bears the well-brimmed target. The squaw, wrapped her yellow-hemmed cloth, is offering moccasins and bead bags for sale. The connoisseur peers along the exhibition gallery with half-shut eyes bent sideways The deckhands make fast steamboats, the plank is thrown with the shore-goers, passengers. The young sister holds out the skew, the eldest sister winds it off and ball and stops now and then for the knots. The 1-year wife is receiving and happy. A week ago she bore her first child. The clean-haired Yankee girl works her sewing machine in the factory or mill. The 9 months gone is partition. The 9 months gone is in the partition chamber. Her faintness and pains are advancing. The paving man leans on two-handed rammer. The reporter's lead flies swiftly over the notebook. The sign painter is lettering with red and gold. The sign painter is lettering with red and gold. The canal boy trots the towpath. The bookkeeper counts at his desk. The shoemaker waxes his thread. The conductor beats time for the band, and all performers follow him. The child is baptized. The convert is making the first profession. The regatta is spread in the bay. How the white sails sparkle. The drover watches his drove. He sings out to them that would stray. The peddler sweats with his pack on his back. The purchaser higgles about the old cent. The camera and plate prepared, the lady must sit for her daughter type. The bride unrumples her white dress. The minute hand of the clock moves slowly. The opium eater reclines with rigid head and just opened lips. The prostitute dangles her shawls. Her bonnet bobs on her tipsy and pimpled neck. The crowd laugh at her backguard oaths. The men jeer and wink to each other. Miserable! I do not laugh at your oaths, nor jeer you. The president holds a cabinet council. He is surrounded by the great secretaries. On the piazza walk 5 friendly matrons with twined arms. The crew of the fish smack pack repeat layers of halibut on the hold. The Missourian crosses the plains, totting his wares and his cattle. The fare collector goes through the train. He gives notice by the jingling of his loose change. The floormen are laying the floor. The tinners are tinning the roof. The masons are calling for mortar. In single file, each shouldering his hod, pass onward to the laborers. Seasons, pursuing each in their indescribable crowd, is gathered. It is the 4th of July. What salutes of cannon and small arms, seasons pursuing each other. The plower plows, and the mower mows, and the winter grain falls in the ground. Off the lakes and Pike's Fisher watches and waits by the hole of the frozen surface. The stumps stand thick round the clearing. The squatter strikes deep with his axe. The flat boatmen make fast toward dusk near the cottonwood pica trees. The coon seeker go now through the rains of the Red River, or through those drained by the Tennessee, or through those of the Arkansas. The torches shine in the dark that hangs on the Chattahoochee or Altamaha. Patriarchs sit at supper with sons and grandsons and great-grandsons around them. In walls of adobe, in canvas tents, rest hunters and trappers after their day's sports. The city sleeps, and the country sleeps. The living sleep for their time, the dead sleep for their time. The old husband sleeps by his wife, the young husband sleeps by his wife, and And these one and all tend inward to me. I tend outward to them. And such as it is to be of these more or less, I am. I am of old and young, of the foolish as much as the wise, regardless of others, ever regardful of others, maternal as well as paternal, a child as well as a man, stuffed with the stuff that is coarse and stuffed with the stuff that is fine, one of the great nations, the nation of many nations, the smallest of the same and the largest of the same, a southerner soon as a northerner, a planter nonchalant and hospitable, a Yankee bound by my own way, ready for trade, my joints limberest joint on earth and the sternest joints on earth, the Kentuckian walking the vale of the Elkhorn in my deerskin leggings, a boatman over the lakes or bays along the coast, a Hoosier, a Badger, a Buckeye, a Louisianan, a Georgian, a poke easy from sandhills and pines, at home on Canadian snowshoes, at home on Canadian snowshoes, or up the bush, or with the fishermen, off Newfoundland. A home in the fleet of ice boats, sailing with the rest and tacking and taking. Tacking? Tacking is the right word. At home with the hills of the Vermont, or the woods of the comrade of Californians, comrade of free Northwesterners, loving their big proportions, comrade of raftsmen and coalmen, and comrade of all who shake hands and welcome to drink and meat, a learner with the simplest, a teacher with the thoughtfulest, a novice beginning experiment of myriads of seasons of every hue and trade and rank, of every caste and religion, not merely the New World, but of Africa, Europe, or Asia, a wandering savage, a farmer, mechanic, or artist, a gentleman or sailor, lover or Quaker, a prisoner, fancy man, a rowdy, a lawyer, a physician, or priest. I resist anything better than my own diversity, and breathe the air and leave plenty after me, and I am not stuck up, and am in my place. The moth, the fish eggs are in their place. The sun I see and the suns I cannot see are in their place. The palpable is in the place, and the impalpable is in its place. These are the thoughts of all men in all ages and lands. They are not original with me. If they are not yours as much as mine, they are nothing to the next to nothing. If they do not enclose everything, they are not. If they do not enclose everything, they are next to nothing. If they are not the riddle and the untying of the riddle, they are nothing. If they are not just as close as they are distant, they are nothing. This is the grass that grows wherever the land is, and the water is. This is the common air that bathes the globe. This is the breath of laws and songs and behavior. This is the tasteless water of souls. This is the true substance. It is for the illiterate. It is for the judges of the Supreme Court. It is for the illiterate. It is for the judges on the Supreme Court. It is for the federal capital and the state capitals. It is for the admirable communes of literary men and composers and singers and lecturers and engineers and stavens. It is for the endless races of working people and farmers and seamen. This is the trill of 1,000 clear cornets, and scream of the octave flute, and the strike of triangles. I play not march for victors only. I play great marches for conquered and slain persons. Have you heard that was good to gain the day? I also say it is good to fall. Battles are lost in the same spirit in which they are won. I sound triumphal drums for the dead. I fling through my embouchures the loudest and gayest music to them, vivas to those that have failed, and to those who war vessels sank in the sea, and to those themselves who sank in the sea, and to all generals that lost engagements, and all overcome heroes, and the numberless unknown heroes equal to the greatest heroes known. This is the meal pleasantly set. This is meat and drink for the natural hunger. It is for the wicked, just as the same as the righteous. I make appointments with all. I will not have a single person slighted or left away. The kept woman on springer and thief, and hereby invited. The heavy-lipped slave is invited. The venerable, the venereal is invited. There shall be no difference between them and the rest. This is the press of a bashful hand. This is the float and odor of hair. This is the touch of my lips to yours. This is the murmur of yearning. This is the far-off depth of height reflecting my own face. This is the thoughtful merge of myself and the outlet again. Do you guess I have some purpose? Well, for the April rain has, and the mica on the side of the rock has. Do you take it? I would astonish. Does the daylight astonish, or the early red start twitter through the woods? Do I astonish more than they? This hour I tell things in confidence. I might not tell everybody, but I will tell you. Who goes there? Hankering, gross, mystical nude? How is it I extract strength from the beef I eat? What is a man anyhow? What am I? What are you? All I mark as my own, you shall offset with your own. Else it were time lost listening to me. I do not snivel, that snivel the world over. The months are vacuums, the ground but wallow and filth. That life is suck and a cell, and nothing remains at the end but threadbare crepe and tears, whimpering and truckling, fold with powders for invalids. Conformity goes to the fourth movement. I cock my hat as I please indoors or out. Shall I pray? Shall I venerate and be ceremonious? I have pried through the strata and analyzed to a hair, and counseled with doctors and calculated close, and found no sweeter fat than sticks in my own bones. And all people I see myself, none more and none, and not one a barleycorn less. And the good or bad I say of myself, I say of them, and I know I am solid and sound. To the covering objects of the universe perpetually flow. All are written to me, and I must get what the writing means. And I know I am deathless. I know this orbit of mine cannot be swept by a carpenter's compass. I know I shall not pass like child's carlacou, cut with a burnt stick at night. I know I am august. I do not tremble my spirit to vindicate itself or be understood. I see the elementary laws never apologize, I reckon I behave no prouder than the level I plant my house by after all. I exist as I am, that is enough. If no other in the world be aware, I sit content, and if each and all be aware, I sit content. One world is aware, and by far the largest to me, and that is myself. And whether I come to my own today, or in 10,000 or 10 million years, I can cheerfully take it now, or with equal cheerfulness I can wait. My foothold is 10 owned, and morsed in granite. I laugh at what you call disillusion, and I know the amplitude of time. I am the poet of the body, and I am the poet of the soul. The pleasures of heaven are with me, and the pains of hell are with me, and the first I graft and increase upon myself, the latter I translate to a new tongue. I am the poet of the woman of the same as the man, and I say it as great to be a woman as a man, and I say there is nothing greater than to be a mother of men. I chant a new chant of dilation or pride. We have had ducking and deprecating about enough. I show that size is only development. Have you outstripped the rest? Are you the president? It is trifle. They will more than arrive here, every one, and still pass on. I am the poet of the body, and I am the poet of the soul. The pleasures of heaven are with me, and the pains of hell are with me. The first I graft and increase upon myself, the latter I translate into a new tongue. I am the poet of the woman, the same as the man, and I say it is as great to be a woman as to be a man, and I say there is nothing greater than the mother of men. I chant a new chant of dilation or pride. We have had ducking and deprecated about enough. I show that size is only development. Have you outstripped the rest? Are you the president? It is a trifle. They will more than arrive there, everyone, and I still pass on. I am he that walks with tender and growing night. I call the earth and sea, half held by the night. Press close the bare-bosomed night. Press close the magnetic nourishment night. Night of south winds, night of large few stars, still nodding night, mad naked summer night. Smile of voluptuous cool-breathed earth, earth of the slumbering and liquid trees, earth of departed sunset, earth of mountains misty-topped, earth of vitreous pour of the full moon just tinged with blue, earth of shine and dark mottling the tide of the river, earth of the limpy gray of cloud, brighter and clear for my sake, far swooping elbowed earth, rich apple-blossomed earth, smile for your lover comes, prodigal, you have given me love, therefore I, too, you, give love, I, unspeakable, passionate love. Thruster holding me tight, and that I hold tight, we hurt each other as the bridegroom and the bride hurt each other. You, see, I resign myself to you. I guess what you mean. I behold for the beach your crooked, inviting fingers. I behold you refuse to go back without feeling of me. We must have turn together. I undress. Hurry me out of sight of the land. Cushion me soft. Rock me in the billowy drowse. Dash me with amorous wet. I can repay you. Sea of stretched ground swells. Sea breathing, bored and convulsing breaths, sea of brine of life, sea of undisheveled and always ready graves, howler and scooper of storms, capricious and dainty sea, I am integral with you. I, too, am the one phase and of all phases, partaker of influx and efflux, extoller and of hate and consolation, extoller of armies and those that sleep in each other's arms. I am he attesting sympathy. Shall I make my list of things in the house and skip the house that supports them? I am the poet of common sense and of the demon strable of the immortality, and I am not the poet of goodness only. I do not decline to be the poet of wickedness also. Washes and razors for foo-foos, for me freckles and a bristle beard. What burnt is it about virtue and about vice? Evil propels me, and reform of evil propels me. I stand indifferent. My gait is not fault-finder's or rejecter's gait. I moisten the roofs of all that has grown. Did you fear some scruffle out of the unflagging pregnancy? Did you guess the celestial laws are yet to be worked over and rectified? I step up to say that what we do is right, and what we affirm is right, and some is only the ore of right, witness of us, one side, balance and antipedal side a balance, soft doctrine as steady help as stable doctrine, thoughts and deeds of the present are rouse and early start. This minute that comes to me over the past declins, there is no better than it and now. What behaved well in the past or behaves well today is not such a wonder. The wonder is always and always how there can be mean man or infidel. Endless unfolding of words of ages, and mine a word of the modern, and a word of in mass, a word of the faint that never balks. One time as good as another time, here or henceforward, it is all the same to me. A word of reality, materialism, first and last imbuing. Hurrah for positive science. Long live exact demonstration. Fetch stone crop and mix it with cedar and branches of lilac. This is the lexicographer or chemist. This made a grammar of the old cart couches. These mariners put the ship through the dangerous unknown sea. This is the geologist, and this works with the scalpel, and this a mathematician. Gentlemen, I receive you and attach and clasp hands with you. The facts are useful and real, they are not dwelling. I enter by them an area of the dwelling. I am less the reminder of property or qualities, and more the reminder of life, and go on the square for my own sake and for others' sake, and make short account of neuters and gilding, and favor men and women fully equipped, and beat the going of revolt, and stop with the fugitives and them that plot and conspire. Walt Whitman, an American, one of the roughs, a cosmos, disorderly, fleshy, and sensual, eating, drinking, and breeding, no sentimentalist, no stander above men and women or apart from them, no more modest than immodest. Unscrew the locks from the doors, unscrew the doors themselves from their jabs. Whoever degrades another degrades me, and whatever is done or said returns at last to me. and whatever I do or say I also return. Through me the afflatus surges and surging, through me that current and index. I speak the password primeval, I give the sign and of democracy. By God, I will accept nothing which all cannot have their counterpart of on the same terms. Through me many long dumb voices, voices of interminable generations of slaves, voices of prostitutes and deformed persons, voices of diseased and despairing, and of thieves and dwarfs, voices of cycles and preparations and accreations, and of the thread that connects the stars in the wombs and the Father's stuff, and of the rights of them the others are down upon the trivial and flat and foolish despised of the fog air and beetles rolling balls of dung. Through me forbid voices, voices of sexes and lusts, voices veiled and I remove the veil, voices indecent by me clarified and transfigured. I do not press my finger across my mouth, I keep delicate around the bowels as around the head and the heart. Copulation is no more rank to me than death is. I believe in the flesh and the appetites. Seeing, hearing, and feeling are miracles, and each part tag of me is a miracle. Divine am I inside and out, and I make holy whatever I touch or am touched from. The scent of these armpits, aroma finer than prayer. This head is more than churches or Bibles or creeds. If I worship any particular thing, it shall be some of the spread of my body. Translucent mold of me, it shall be you. Shaded ledges and rests, firm masculine coulter, it shall be you. Whatever goes to the tilth of me, it shall be you. You, my rich blood, your milky stream paled, stripping of my life. Breasts that presses against other breasts, it shall be you. My brain, it shall be your occult convulsions. Root of washed sweet flag, tumorous pound snipe, nest of guarded duplicate eggs, it shall be you. Mixed tussle hay and head and beard brawn, it shall be you. Trickling sap of maple, fiber of manly wheat, it shall be you. Sun and generous, it shall be you. Vapors, lightning and shading my face, it shall be you. You sweaty brooks and dews, it shall be you. Winds whose soft tickle generals rub across me, it shall be you. Broad muscular fields, brooches of love oak, loving and longing in my winding paths, it shall be you. Hands I have taken, face I have kissed, mortal I have ever touched, it shall be you. I doted on myself, therefore this is that lot of me, and I all so luscious. Each moment and whatever happens thrills me with joy. To walk up my stoop is unaccountable. I pause to consider if it really be. That I eat and drink is spectacle enough for great authors and schools. A morning glory at my window satisfies me more than the metaphysics of books. To behold the daybreak, the little gift. Light fades, immense and diaphanous shadows. The air tastes good to my palate. Hefts of the moving world and innocent gambols silently rising, freshly exuding, suiting obliquely high and low. Something I cannot see, put upwards, libidinous prongs, sea of bright justice, suffuse heaven. The earth by the sky stayed with the daily close of their junction. The heaved challenge from the east that moment over my head, the mocking taunt, See then whether you shall be master. That was part 1. Part 2 will be going up hopefully tomorrow. I'll be shooting it on a different day, so I'll see if I'll get it all through. I think I'm gonna do a 3-parter for this one. So part 1 and 2 will be me reading the poem, and part 3 will be some analysis, since that's a little bit closer to my usual shtick. Thanks for watching, and I love you.